Hey guys, welcome to another Scientist Spotlight. Tonight we're going to be talking to my cousin who is a microbiologist and a plant pathologist, and he is going to talk about his business ventures and how he has done in his career. No, yet this is Dr. Patrick Heist. He's going to be talking to us about what he does. He is an expert in the field that we are talking about right now. So we will go ahead and get started. If you just want to introduce yourself briefly, and we will start with your education.
Dr. Patrick Heist, and I've been a big fan of science going back to my high school days. And even before that, that was one of the first things that I really enjoyed. One of the first classes that I really enjoyed and did well in. I think it was seventh grade is when I really started kind of knowing that science was something that I wanted to do. And then when I graduated high school, I actually got the science award at my high school, which I think at that time my school was like last in the state of Kentucky, and Kentucky was last in the nation. So I tell people I got the science award at the worst school in the nation. So that's kind of how it started. And then I went on to the University of Kentucky, and I got a bachelor's degree in microbiology. Once I took microbiology, which is the study of microorganisms, so things like bacteria and viruses and fungi and yeast and those kind of things. The first time I took a microbiology class, which I think was my sophomore year of college, I knew that that's what I want to do. And so it's good. You know, when you get into college, you take all kinds of different classes, and sometimes it doesn't make sense, but they're just trying to expose you to a lot of different topics. And when I took my first microbiology class, I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to study these microscopic organisms. So I got my bachelor's degree in microbiology, and then I went on to get a master's and a PhD in plant pathology, which is actually microbiology. It's the study of microorganisms that cause diseases of plants. So farmers that grow field crops, you know, if you're a corn farmer or a soybean farmer or a tobacco farmer, there are different microscopic organisms that cause diseases on plants. And so that was kind of what I did in my graduate studies, was study microorganisms that cause diseases of plants. And I went on to work for the University of Kentucky, helping farmers to solve diseases of plants. And actually, I had a lot of collaboration with NC State down there. So North Carolina State, North Carolina is a big tobacco growing state. And so one of my areas of specialty was tobacco and the microorganisms that cause diseases of tobacco. And so I had a lot of collaborative discussions with North Carolina State University and professors there who also study very similar organisms. So very familiar with that area. Um, so that's my education.
When you first got interested in this field, what did you think that you were going to be doing as a career, and how did that kind of mold and change into what you are actually currently doing? And then also leading into, what does a typical day look like for you? Like when you go to work, what are you doing each day?
Yep. So I always thought growing up that I was going to be a comedian, and that never worked out. And then I thought, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to be a comedian, but I think I could be a rock star. And so I got in a rock and roll band, and I did that for a little while. But I guess the job opportunities that I had, kind of changed over time. So whenever I got my degree in microbiology, my actual job at the time was, if you've ever seen like a truck delivering a wide load, is what they call it. You know, something that's really like, if you got a truck that's delivering a crane or something like that, you'll see the truck in the front and the truck in the back with the blinking lights. They're called escort trucks. And so actually, whenever I got my microbiology degree, my main job was driving a rear escort truck for a company that sold trailers. So if anybody ever gets a single wide mobile home and needs their underpinning fixed, I can definitely help you out with that. So that's what I was doing. And when I got my microbiology degree, when I was applying for jobs, I think the best one that I came across was the quality assurance manager for a company called Chef America, which is the company that makes Hot Pockets. If anybody's ever done that. So I kind of thought, you know what, I think I'm gonna sort of hold out here and try to get something a little better. And then I went into microbiology or into plant pathology, and I was in graduate school for several years. And when I got out, very interestingly, and this is a good example of, whenever you have a expertise, and again, mine was microbiology, and then into plant pathology, there was an opportunity. I mean, I was obviously applying for jobs that employed plant pathologists, and one that comes to mind was a position in Florida doing research for a company that develops pesticides that are sprayed on golf course greens to control fungal diseases. It kind of sounded like a cool thing. There's decent money in it. I was going to be living on the beach in Florida. Sounded really cool. But what job I ended up taking was a medical microbiology professor position at a medical school in Eastern Kentucky. So a lot of people that I worked with who were in plant pathology, they're like, "What are you applying for a job at a medical school for?" And it just goes to show you that, just because you learn one particular discipline, you got to really think of all the different ways that you can apply that knowledge. So the stuff you're learning in class right now, there's probably 150 different jobs that you can get, with the knowledge that you're learning. So it was a situation where I found an opportunity, and I kind of went out on a limb and applied for a position that was a little bit outside of my area. And I knew I was going to have to learn a lot of stuff if I got that job, but I got it. And I ended up teaching as a medical microbiology professor for about 6 or 7 years. And then I started doing research for like private research for a couple different companies. And one of the companies that I worked for was a company that sold yeast to distilleries and breweries. And I started learning about, the whole process of how microorganisms are involved with making different food products. Those of you who have ever had like kombucha, that is a kind of like a tea that's made from microorganisms. If anyone's ever eaten soy sauce or cider vinegar, I mean, there's a lot of different foods. Sauerkraut is another one. There's a lot of different foods that are made from fermentation processes. And so I kind of became an expert in that area. And then actually, I started a business with one of the guys who was in my rock band, which kind of gets back to networking. You never know who's going to end up being your business partner one day. So, if you're jamming out in a rock band with someone, the guy standing next to you might be your business partner one day. So definitely, keep in touch with your friends and different things like that, because they might end up being valuable later on in a business venture. So we started a company called Firm Solutions, and that company markets yeast and enzymes and does technical support for fuel alcohol distilleries. A lot of people don't realize it, but here in the United States, about 20% of all the fuel that's put into vehicles has about 15 to 20% ethyl alcohol in it. And that is, it's a very similar process to making whiskey or making beer, but you're actually making fuel out of it. So we started selling products to fuel alcohol distilleries. We actually have some customers in North Carolina there. Most of our customers are in the Midwest, so like the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, those states. So, that's kind of how we got our start, and then went on to start a distillery of our own, where we're now a tourism facility. We're on what's called the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, and we have a tourism facility. So that's kind of a little bit of probably too much information for you on all the different things that I've done.
So when you go to work, obviously all of your jobs that you have held look very different on a typical work day, but What are you doing day in and day out that uses that knowledge that you have?
Yep. So, as one of the owners of the company, we have 50 plus employees. And so, managing different groups. So, we have a laboratory where we're doing, developing new products, helping our customers to solve problems. And so, a lot of times, I'm, in communication with the laboratory on coordinating different tests that we're doing for customers, as well as things that we're doing there at our own distillery, which a lot of times involves either yeast or bacteria, and the methods that are used to grow them, and to determine what's the best environmental conditions, what temperature works the best for a certain yeast or a bacteria, how long does it take for it to do its job, those kind of things. I also do a lot of marketing, so I'm in touch with we have sales and marketing representatives, and so they're actually out. Some of them even live in other states, and so whenever they reach a customer, if they have any technical questions, then our sales guys rely on me, and as well as some of the other scientists on our staff, to answer questions in order to sell products to our customers. So there's a lot of that going on. I have a lot of people coming by that want to see different areas of our process. And again, that's all sales and marketing. So what we're really trying to do is get customers to buy our products. So that's a lot of what I do on a day-to-day basis, in addition to talking to middle school classes and high school classes.
So, how important do you think having solid communication skills are, and how did you develop those? Obviously, you practice it every day, but were you always this? Obviously, you weren't always this knowledgeable on these things, but did you always have an ability to talk about things in such a good way, or is this a skill that you think that you had to learn?
Definitely a skill that you learn. I've always been a real friendly person. I've always tried to be a kind of a crowd pleaser. I've never really had any problems with anybody. I've always gotten along with everyone, and have had a pretty easy time making friends over the years, which is good because, again, the people that you meet throughout your life are going to be your network. And those are the people. So if you ever want to start a business, or you're going to do something, think about who do you know in your life that it has different expertise. And if you're going to do something, you might decide, oh wow, I remember this person really is knowledgeable in that area, and you'll go back to them and maybe start up some kind of a partnership. But definitely, communications is a skill that's learned. A lot of people are afraid to get up in front of a class, or to get in front of a crowd and speak, but it's really a very valuable thing that to be able to do. And so I remember when I was in my early college years, the first communications class I ever took, I was like, I got to give a speech in front of the class. And it was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be, so I'm going to be nervous. And I remember my leg was shaking and everything. I was like, ugh. But you just kind of get used to it. And then, when I was in graduate school, I did a lot of presentations, and part of it was because I like to travel, so I had opportunities to travel different places and give speeches and do presentations. But also I knew that doing that and forcing myself to do that, it would give me experience to, whenever I got that job as a professor, for example, I had to go there and actually give a practice talk, hey man, what's it like for this guy to give a lecture? And, I gave a really good lecture, and it was because of the experience that I got, traveling around doing those talks. So I highly encourage everyone to, do everything. Like I said, it sometimes, and different people are different. So, some people are more bashful than others. So don't ever hesitate to kind of go out on a limb and, build your networking skills and build your communication skills, because definitely that's one of the most important things for running a business and being successful, is having really good communication skills.
Now you have given a TED Talk, right?
Yep, I gave a TED Talk out in Reno, Nevada last year.
Were you nervous
Oh
for
yeah.
that?
Heck yeah! I mean, I'm a seasoned lecturer. I've done hundreds and hundreds of lectures, and seminars and different things. But that was in front of an audience of over 2,000 people. It was a TED Talk. A very sophisticated setup, the stage, the microphone, and I went through a process for. It was only a 10-minute talk, but I had probably 7 or 8 months of preparation for that. It was one of the most difficult things that I ever did in terms of speaking and public engagement. And definitely, I was nervous, very nervous.
What is the process for that? Do you have to try out? Do they approach you? Like, how does one get to the TED stage?
Well, normally you are kind of identified as an expert in some field. So, I'm an expert in the process for making whiskey, among other things. And they wanted someone to talk about how climate change affects whiskey production. So it was, I guess I got recommended by someone, and then the TED people called me up and asked if I wanted to do it. And of course I wanted to do it. That would be the opportunity of a lifetime. So um, it was very interesting to get to do that, and probably one of the career highlights for me.
What advice or just words of wisdom would you have for my students who think that they might be interested in science, or it's not even their favorite subject right now, but they think, okay, this could maybe turn into something cooler in the future? What would you say to those students?
So what I would say in general to start with is, and this has always been my philosophy, is do what makes you happy. If it's science, then do science. If it's something else, do something else. But as long as you do what makes you happy, it doesn't matter if you make a lot of money or not a lot of money. You're going to be a happy person for the rest of your life. So definitely follow and do things that make you happy. Um, and then apart from that, I would definitely encourage everyone. Whenever I was your age, I didn't wasn't from a family that had a lot of money. My parents were very loving parents, and so I had that going for me. But I never got pushed into doing anything. It was always, my parents always encouraged me to do what made me happy. Hey, if you want to go to college, then you go to college. If you don't, we're not going to pay for it, but you can go. um so they always encouraged me to do what made me happy, and never pushed me to do one thing or the other. And even if you are, or are from a disadvantaged home, or whatever, anyone can accomplish anything that they set their mind to. So if you want to achieve something, set a goal and make sure that you do it. And I know 12 years old is a long way from having to think about, grown up responsibilities and things like that. But at that stage of the game, just do your best, respect your teachers and your elders, and be polite, and make people like you, develop a good network, and you'll be successful. And again, if you live a happy life and do what you want to do for the rest of your life, that is a successful existence. So, just I would highly encourage everyone to work really hard and put your best foot forward, and, do what makes you happy, and you'll be successful.
Hope you guys enjoyed getting to hear from Dr. Heist. I will link his TED Talk in the description for the video below. And one last thing that he did not mention is that their distillery that is located in Danville, Kentucky, was recently featured on Jeopardy! And I will leave you with that clip.
What is Montana?
That's it.
In the state 600.
Wilderness Trail Distillery. Cole.
What is Kentucky?
Right.
In the state